Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Zip, and I've recently embarked on a journey to get a full shiny living Pokédex. And if you don't know what that means I want one copy of each and every shiny Pokemon available. So far, we have about 250 shiny Pokemon, and I'd love to share some of the stories and clips from the best ones. So, enjoy! I was a Pokemon fan since Gen 3, but I didn't really pick up shiny hunting until recently with Gen 8. One of my buddies, Vibes, introduced me into shiny hunting with Dynamax Adventures for both legendaries and the random Pokemon you get there. And that's actually where my shiny hunting journey really starts. My first shiny Pokemon I ever got was a shiny Poliwrath from Dynamax Adventures in Sword and Shield. I don't have the reaction shot for a lot of these early Pokemon before I started streaming, but rest assured, this is still one of the most impactful shinies I've ever gotten. I took this Poliwrath around everywhere I went. I used it. It's one of my favorite shiny Pokemon I've ever gotten. And here he is, my shiny Poliwrath. He's named after the character from Punch-Out, of course, Little Mac. I've never actually played that game, but it's fully from the Punch-Out speedrun videos by Summoning Salt, so shout out Summoning Salt. And yeah, he's got a pretty good nature on him. He's got the ability Swift Swim, so he's faster in the rain. It kind of worked well for my first competitive team I've ever used, which was a rain team. He's got Belly Drum to boost his attack way up, Drain Punch to heal back up. I really thought this was a pretty viable Pokemon. We didn't really win that much together, but it was my first shiny Pokemon nonetheless, and the first entry into my living dex. Now, in those Dynamax Adventures I talked about before, the first legendary Pokemon I actually found shiny was this Cresselia right here, Miss Universe. Miss Universe was also a part of the Rain team with Little Mac as my first two real shinies. To this day, I still think Cresselia is one of the most beautiful shiny Pokemon there are. Top tier shiny, great shiny legendary, great Pokemon in general, even the non-shiny form. I'm happy that this is one of my first shiny Pokemon and my first shiny legendary Pokemon. Here's another special shiny Pokemon in my collection. Not every shiny Pokemon in my collection is one that I've shiny hunted myself. In fact, I have quite a few from other trainers. This Ninetales is a special one, named Naruto after, of course, the Ninetale fox, Jinchuriki. And this comes directly from my buddy Vibes, who got me into shiny hunting in the first place. We like to trade our duplicate and extra shinies to each other early on, and now I have plenty to go around regardless, but it's a nice keepsake of one of my first shiny trades I've ever done. This is also one of the reasons I really got into shiny hunting in general. Vibes had way more shiny Pokemon than I did at the time, which is why I got some of his duplicate Pokemon, and I wanted that to change. I wanted to be able to give him some of my duplicates. Now, a lot of the Pokemon that we're going to be talking about today are Pokemon that I love the shinies of, or they have a great story of, but frankly, some of them are not good shinies, and let's talk about some of those right off the bat. Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar are, in my opinion, some of the worst shiny Pokemon to exist. All three of them have shinies that just don't change enough to be noteworthy, and they're just not super exciting. And there are plenty of Pokemon like this. Another one I can think of is Pichu. There's lots of shiny Pokemon that just don't have a very good shiny. We're still going to get one of each of them, despite that. Unfortunately, somebody has to be the least favorite on the list, and the line of Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar are up there as the worst shiny in my opinion. Now, I don't have any specific restriction here on which games Pokemon need to come from. I have shiny Pokemon from Sword and Shield, Legends Arceus, Brilliant Diamond, Shining Pearl, but I also have shiny Pokemon from Pokemon Go. And my first one from Pokemon Go is actually a shiny Yanma. There's nothing in particularly super noteworthy about this shiny Yanma, but it was one of my first shiny Pokemon in Pokemon Go. And I think getting shiny Pokemon from Pokemon Go is completely valid in anybody's shiny living dex. Another great shiny from Pokemon Go I got was actually a shiny Ditto. This one is actually not one that I caught myself, although it does have my trainer ID. I was out on a walk with my girlfriend K-Caps, we were playing Pokemon Go, and there were a million Bidoof around, so we were just catching everything available. There was one specific Bidoof that I was having trouble catching, and she was having trouble catching something on her phone as well, so we switched phones and tried to catch them for each other. Turned out, the Bidoof that I was having trouble catching was a Ditto, and not only that, K-Caps got me my first shiny Ditto. I think the one that I caught for her was a Spinarak, and it was absolutely not shiny, so awkward. Now, most of the time, duplicate shiny Pokemon are nice to have, good to trade with other people, but it's not something I specifically ever look for, and I try to keep it to a minimum when I can. There is, of course, one duplicate Pokemon that I really messed up in getting. Back in October 2021, there was an event for shiny Celebi through mystery gifts in Sword and Shield. And of course I took that opportunity to get the shiny Celebi. That Pokemon entered my shiny living dex as soon as I set it up. Unfortunately, I use a Pokédex tracker to know which Pokemon I already have in the Pokédex without opening Pokemon Home every time, and I forgot to check the Celebi in the dex. By the way, the link to the dex is in the description below. Because of this, when I got my shiny Celebi in Pokemon Go, I later transferred that over into the living dex as well. And if you have ever transferred a shiny Pokemon, or any Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Pokemon Home, you'll know you can't get it back. So this once per account encounter of shiny Celebi in Pokemon Go was transferred over to my living dex, kinda for no reason, unfortunately. So right now I've got 2 shiny Celebis in my dex. One does have my original trainer ID, which is a little bit better than the mystery gift jungle trainer ID that they give you, but 2 shiny Celebis, what can you do? Wurmple has been one of the most common shiny Pokemon I've seen across any games, and there's a couple reasons for this. One, the majority of my shiny hunting has been in Legends Arceus, and in Pokemon Legends Arceus you have a very high shiny Pokemon rate compared to other games because you see a lot of overworld shinies, it's easy to fly over Pokemon, and Wurmple's pretty common, especially in the Obsidian Fieldlands. So I've definitely seen my fair share of shiny Wurmples from Legends Arceus. I've also seen plenty of shiny Wurmples from Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, I have this project called Mega Switch. It's a project between me and my buddy Vibes, where we are coding up Arduinos to allow one controller to control multiple switches with the same set of inputs at the same time. With this project, we got 4 switches running, all controlled by one Switch Pro controller at once. The purpose of this, of course, is to shiny hunt as fast as possible, in this case, up to 4 times as fast. One of the original ways we tested this out was in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. And to really take advantage of the odds, I got 4 accounts on each of the switches up to the Eterna Forest, where you could encounter Pokemon with Cheryl. Now, we have 4 switches and each game is encountering 2 Pokemon at once, meaning we are finding Pokemon 8 times the rate of a normal encounter, effectively finding shiny Pokemon in 1/8 of the time. With Mega Switch, we were able to find every single shiny Pokemon in the Eterna Forest. And of course, there were many duplicates of Wurmple. The good thing about Wurmple is that it evolves into 2 separate lines. In theory, to fill out a shiny living dex, you actually need 5 Wurmple to evolve up and get each one of the Wurmple line. So after all was said and done in BDSP, I had plenty of Wurmple to go around and completed the Wurmple line in my living dex. But we were still finding shiny Wurmple all across Legends Arceus and BDSP. Before I started PokeRadar chaining, I think this might have been the most common Pokemon I have ever seen shiny. And you know what? I love it. The purple on shiny Wurmple is beautiful. Ralts here is one of my favorite shiny Pokemon, and favorite Pokemon in general, probably ever. There are a couple other Pokemon up there on the list, including Latias, but Ralts is one of my all-time favorites. Back in Gen 3, Ralts is a Pokemon that you watch Wally catch and grow with over time as he evolves throughout the game. To me, Ralts was always a great Generation 3 Pokemon, and one I was always interested in. I used to frequently play emulators and randomizers of the Gen 3, 4, 5 games, etc. And one of my first real shinies that I've ever seen is actually shiny Ralts. Unfortunately, it was on a DS emulator probably 10 years ago at this point. It's completely lost to time, but the shiny Ralts has stayed with me for a long time, and when I got Pokemon's Legends Arceus, this was one of the Pokemon I went out of my way to shiny hunt. I think Ralts is an incredibly cute Pokemon, and it's one of the nicest shinies I've ever seen. With Legends Arceus, I was able to get Ralts, Kirlia, and Gardevoir all very easily. Up until actually just a week ago, I still was waiting for the shiny Gallade. But I actually found 7 shiny Ralts all in one chain. You'll notice that a lot of my favorite shiny Pokemon are of course from Gen 3. That was the main game I played as a kid, and the Game Boy Advance was my gateway into the world of Pokemon. Early on in my shiny hunting adventure, I wanted to get the pseudo-legendary from Gen 3, Salamence. At this time, I only really had Sword and Shield to shiny hunt in, so I decided my best method was to Masuda method hunt for a Bagon. At the time, I did have the shiny charm and Sword and Shield, so that left me with a 1 in 512 chance to find a shiny Bagon. Unfortunately, the Bagon took a bit longer than that. After 1,385 eggs, I finally found my shiny Bagon. This is one of the only Pokemon to this day that I have ever actually Masuda method shiny hunted. I think part of it is because this hunt took so long that the Masuda method has always been a bit of a letdown to me, but eventually I'm going to have to get back to the Masuda method and hunting more Pokemon through eggs. We'll see how this changes in Scarlet and Violet if I'll ever have to really do it again, but there will be Pokemon in Sword and Shield that I have to go back to this one. Still, Bagon and now Salamence was definitely worth the wait. In terms of roughest hunts, Registeel might have been the longest I have ever hunted for a Pokemon. A lot of my soft reset hunts, I use a Pro controller that is modified to have a macro button on to help soft reset automatically. So I have Pokemon open on the side, and I program in myself the buttons to press home, close the game, open the game back up, encounter the Pokemon, and start over. Personally, I don't really have a problem with this because I still need to 1. Notice the shiny Pokemon, and 2. Catch it myself. It's not an automatic catch or anything like that, it just makes the soft resets easier on my hands. Anyway, how I usually searched for Registeel was I left Pokemon open while I would play other games, watch Netflix, whatever, and I would let the resets go. Unfortunately, the resets went on and on and on. At the time, this is the first shiny Regi I was looking for in a sequence to get all 6 of the Regis. And while I was hunting Registeel, I wasn't really aware of the fact that the shiny charm didn't work on Registeel, so I didn't know it was a full odds shiny hunt. Because of this, I actually thought I was going 10 times over odds for Registeel. This drove me mad. Over weeks of gameplay, I reset for shiny Registeel over 13,000 times. Even with the 1 in 4,000 odds, that's still 3 times overrate. I did go on to find shiny Regice in 8,000 resets and shiny Regirock in 6,000 resets, but the 3 shiny Regis after that were all actually fairly quick. Altogether, I think I went roughly on odds for the 6 of them, but Registeel was definitely a huge outlier on that. Another one of my lovable Gen 3 shinies is shiny Latios. This one I got through Dynamax Adventures in Pokemon Sword, and ever since then I've been waiting to get its pair, the shiny Latios. Now shiny Latios showed up for me in January 2021, actually a day after my birthday. As of recording this, it is October 10th, 2022, and I only just got shiny Latios last week. I had been hunting Dynamax Adventures for hours and hours and hours until eventually I decided with BDSP to shiny hunt for Latios there. After a couple days of soft resets, I was finally able to bring Apollo back to his twin Artemis, the shiny Latios, and reunite the pair. Oh my god, the shiny Latios! Oh my god! What is the timing on this? Hello there! Oh my god! Yo, look at, it's beautiful. Yo, oh my god. One of my most interesting shiny Pokemon I've ever received is shiny Combee. Now this Pokemon came from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and if you played Legends Arceus, you know shiny Combee are available in one area, the Crimson Mireland, and they're also available in trees. Prior to getting the shiny Combee, I spent an entire stream just checking trees in Legends Arceus to find shiny Pokemon to jump out of them. I spent roughly 8 hours doing this, and I never found one Pokemon jumping out of a tree that was shiny. This was also part of a video and challenge that I did to find one of these shinies jumping out of a tree. Unfortunately, because I didn't find one jumping out of a tree, I ended up releasing half of the shiny Pokemon from that day. Of course, if I kept checking trees, eventually something was going to pop out of it. And a couple days later, well, there's a Pachirisu. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! It was a shiny coming out of a tree! Oh my god! It's been so long! Let's go! Oh my god! No way! Holy cow! Luxio is of course a very common shiny Pokemon. Shinx has a very nice shiny for Gen 4, and also they're very common Pokemon in Legends Arceus. But Luxio has a special place for me as this was one of the craziest shiny Pokemon encounters I have ever had. I was flying around in Legends Arceus looking for shiny Pokemon in the Coronet Highlands. After flying in basically a straight line for 3 seconds, I heard the shiny sparkles and looked down to see a shiny Luxio. Of course, I threw a Pokeball at it, turned around and got ready to leave and move on, until the shiny sparkles showed up again. I turned around and yet again another shiny Luxio in the same exact spot. I had never seen this happen before, but 2 Pokemon spawned back to back in the same location and both of them were shiny. This blew my mind. Of course, to top it off, a couple checks later, in the same spot I found a shiny Alpha Luxio as well. While these Luxio individually aren't the most interesting shiny Pokemon, the trio of them together is one of the craziest encounters I've ever had. Shiny Xerneas is a great shiny Pokemon, and one that I've wanted to hunt myself for a very long time. For Christmas in 2020, I was back home with my family, and we like to do Dynamax adventures together as a group. Now my brother Zach is even more into Pokemon and shiny hunting than I am. He shiny hunted well before me across all number of generations and had many shiny Pokemon, shiny legendaries, etc., including Xerneas. When we got together to start doing these Dynamax adventures, these were Zach's first ones. After we did the required Suicune Dynamax adventure for your first time, we moved on to Xerneas. And of course, Zach was the most lucky I had ever seen. Shiny Xerneas on one Dynamax adventure. Somehow, I convinced Zach to let me borrow Xerneas in Sword and Shield, and well, Zach, if you're watching this, I'll give it back eventually. Fortunately for me, Zach already had a shiny Xerneas before, and it was a duplicate. They felt a little bit less bad about giving it away, but, well, eventually I should probably get my own. Smeargle was one of my first radar chaining hunts in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. If you've never done this method before, it involves catching Pokemon over and over again to build up this chain, with the chance of the chain breaking even if you do everything right. Ideally, the more you catch, the higher your shiny odds go. So with my first radar chain, I set up Smeargle, and, well, I got pretty lucky. I found a shiny Smeargle, and, well, actually I found 2 shiny Smeargle. This happened not too long after the shiny Ditto with K-Caps, so I decided one was going to be my shiny Smeargle and one would be hers as payment for the Ditto. Anyways, Picasso is still in my save file for BDSP, helping me hunt the rest of my shiny Pokemon. And of course, number 250 itself, shiny Darkrai. Now when I got close to the 250 mark, I wanted to make sure that I had a special Pokemon for 250. So once I got to 248 with a Lucario, I redeemed my shiny Eternatus card from the GameStop event going on at the time, and then within 2 days, the shiny Darkrai showed up, and I caught it with a Master Ball to lock in my 250th shiny Pokemon. Okay. Squirtle S tier. Squirtle, one of the best. Oh my god! No way! No way! No way! No way this just happened right now. There's no way of all the times for this to happen. There's no way the shiny Darkrai shows up right now. What? What in the world? Dude, no! No way! The shiny Darkrai! Yo, what? If you liked this video, hit the like and subscribe button, and check me out live on Twitch at cbk_zip. Thanks.